Minecraft is complicated. Players can complete goals as simple as starting a farm and as complex as making a working CPU out of redstone. There's enchanting, brewing, farming, smithing, archery, mining, crafting. I mean, those two are obvious, but the point being that the player has thousands of activities to spend their time doing. This complexity makes Minecraft hard to figure out. The reason I bring this up is because in my quest to make the most realistic Minecraft civilization event, I need to understand on a fundamental level how the game works. Once I understand that, I can figure out how to tweak the gameplay loop to naturally incentivize cooperation between players, just like how conditions in real life incentivize humanity to work together. So what do I mean by the political economy of Minecraft? Well, political economy usually deals with the interplay between the economy and political systems, and that's exactly what we'll be looking at today, except we'll be analyzing the lack of an economy and of political systems in Minecraft multiplayer, which is a problem that has plagued civilization event hosts ever since the idea got popular. In this video, we're going to break down Minecraft's core gameplay loops to get a fundamental understanding of how players interact with the Minecraft world and how they interact with other players. I want to add that this analysis will be on gameplay loops in hardcore survival. Regular survival and creative mode have so much player freedom that the gameplay loops barely exist like they do in hardcore, which you'll understand what I mean when we get into it. Let's begin. The first gameplay loop is fairly simple. You have a health bar, you have a hunger bar. If your hunger bar drops to 0, your health starts dropping. If your health bar drops to 0, game over. Assuming the player wants to, play Minecraft, they have to take steps to keep both of those bars from dropping too low. Hunger ticks down over time and is affected by things such as sprinting, jumping, breaking blocks, attacking entities, etc. Health can take a hit when fighting mobs, falling too far, or flying too fast. The player has to acquire food in the early game by farming or hunting animals. Both of these activities are very easy. Once the player has a decent source of steady food, such as a farm or livestock, which can be set up by the end of day 1, the player only needs to spend a very small amount of their time on sustaining these sources. If the player invests a little more time, they can even completely automate them and reduce the time required to be spent on food production to nothing. When it comes to the health bar, having a full hunger bar is the primary way to regenerate lost health. On top of that, players can craft armor and weapons to make fighting hostile mobs easier and reduce incoming damage. Another way players can protect themselves from hostile mobs is by building basic shelters. As long as players can keep their health and hunger bars full, they'll be able to keep playing the game, which allows them to move on to the second gameplay loop. The second gameplay loop is progressing through the game. Even though Minecraft is a sandbox game that offers the player unlimited possibilities, it does have a codified progression system similar to a tech tree. Players progress in Minecraft by getting higher and higher tiers of pickaxes. Getting a higher tier pickaxe is the trunk of Minecraft's tech tree, out of which all other content can become unlocked to the player. This tier progression goes wooden pickaxe, stone pickaxe, iron pickaxe, diamond pickaxe. Netherite and gold are not included in the progression since they don't unlock anything new. There's nothing you can mine with a gold pickaxe that you can't mine with an iron one. In fact, I bet you guys didn't know this since nobody uses gold tools, but a gold pickaxe has the same mining level as a wooden pickaxe, which means that a gold pickaxe not only can't be used to mine gold ore, it can't even be used to mine iron ore either. As for netherite, while a netherite pickaxe technically does have a higher mining level than diamond, they haven't added any block in the game that requires that mining level. So for all intents and purposes, the progress that players can make stops with diamond. The only reason players would use netherite is for a speed boost, but anything a netherite pickaxe can mine, a diamond pickaxe can do the same thing. This is the same reason why not all tools are included in the progression. A diamond axe is just a faster iron axe. A stone shovel is just a faster wooden shovel. The new tier of tools can't do anything the previous tier couldn't do. Players only get new tiers of tools for the efficiency boost. I should also mention that a diamond pickaxe only unlocks 5 new blocks for the player: obsidian, crying obsidian, ancient debris, respawn anchors, and blocks of netherite. So for most players, the progression system stops at iron, since an iron pick can still get you full diamond armor and weapons and unlocks 99% of the content in the game. For the average Minecraft player, it takes them about 20 minutes to progress from wood to stone to iron to diamonds. At that point, the progression is done. The player only needs to spend time on maintaining that progression by mining for ores to repair their tools, and on maintaining their farms, which as we said before can be automated to require 0 player input. So once players meet their material needs and progress as far as they wish to go, what do players do next? Well, that's the domain of the third and final gameplay loop: completing the player's goals. Minecraft, as we've said, is a sandbox game. It gives players a wide variety of goals to complete and a wide variety of ways to complete them. Once players ensure they will stay alive, and they get to their desired level of progression in order to fulfill those goals, they spend the vast majority of their time in the game world completing them. Maybe the player's goals include having the best weapons and armor, or building a really cool base, or even just settling down to create a cozy farm. Spending time in the first 2 gameplay loops are the hurdles the player has to overcome in order to get to the reason why they joined the world in the first place. This encourages the player to be as efficient as possible and spend the least amount amount of time in the first 2 gameplay loops so that they can spend more time on their goals in the third. Unless of course their goal was to crawl on their stomach 150 blocks underground to get the most mathematically optimized amount of diamonds as possible. Which, hey, no judgment, I too am a fan of the line go up mentality. This is the fundamental reason why auto farms are so popular. If all the player has to do to get food is walk up to the chest and take the food out, they can spend more time on their build project, or redstone contraption, or anything else the player wants to occupy themselves with. In a quick summary, we can see that the player interacts with the world in 3 ways. In the first gameplay loop, they keep themselves alive by producing their material requirements. In the second gameplay loop, they increase the content that is unlocked to them by progressing through the tiers of pickaxes. And in the third gameplay loop, they use that new content to complete their goals. Over time, we should expect players on average to spend less and less time on the first 2 gameplay loops as players are incentivized to automate those processes in order to free up more time for completing their goals. So far, we've kind of been ignoring other players and just focusing on how an individual player interacts with the Minecraft world alone. Once we add multiple players and confine them to a certain location, we add a few new challenges to each gameplay loop. In single player, the only real threats to the players' lives are the hostile mobs. Adding other players, though, adds a new and much more skilled entity into the game with the possibility of being a threat. Suddenly, the first gameplay loop, staying alive, gets a new challenge. Ensuring survival now involves having the same or better tier of weapons and armor as the players around you. This part of the first gameplay loop bleeds over into the second as well, and incentivizes players to speed through the progression system as quickly as possible to get that high level gear. When it comes to the third gameplay loop, suddenly you have multiple players all with their own goals. With enough players, these goals are bound to have conflicts. Not everybody can do what they want. They have to take into account what the goals of other players are too. There are also bound to be convergences of goals as well. If a group of players all have the same goal of, say, building a cool base, they might just work together to get it done quicker. The same thing goes for every other goal a player could possibly have, including trying to build a society. This convergence of goals is extremely rare though, due to the insane number of goals a player could have. For the most part, players' goals will conflict enough to make large-scale cooperation impossible, especially when those goals could include killing as many other players as possible or griefing projects the other players are working on. I mentioned in the intro of this video about how the lack of economy and political systems have been an ongoing problem for large-scale Minecraft civilization events. Event hosts have solved this divergence of goals problem by trying to guide players' goals. They do this by compelling players to have the same goal so that they choose to group up and work together. Event hosts can do this in multiple ways, such as setting expectations, adding rules enforced by staff, screening applications to only get players interested in roleplay, and more. For the most part, these rules have worked in aligning players' goals in order to get them to specialize and organize themselves into political systems, which is how these civilization events were able to get players to organize into societies where our analysis shows it should be very difficult or even impossible to occur naturally. We've discovered in our analysis that in vanilla hardcore Minecraft, player behavior is predictable up to a point. We know that players will have to spend time producing their material requirements, and we know that players will usually have to spend time progressing through the tiers of pickaxes. But once they get to the third gameplay loop, what they do is entirely up to them. When we add in other players to the world, cooperation is extremely unlikely. Players don't gain much extra advantage in producing material requirements or progressing from working together, since it only takes players around 20 minutes to finish the first 2 gameplay loops. This means that cooperation can only come from a convergence of goals between multiple players. This convergence is extremely rare when we consider how many possible goals there are in Minecraft. One way to ensure cooperation is to try to control players' goals, to have them converge. This is the solution that most event hosts go down, and this brings me to how we're solving this problem in our Minecraft Civilizations event. We're changing how long the first gameplay loops take. On an individual level, the change will look like this. Players can work together in order to improve their efficiency in order to start progressing in the second gameplay loop so that they can begin on the third gameplay loop. In this way, we're not changing players' goals, but rather changing the challenges they face. The solution to those challenges is to work together. This cooperation in production requires coordination, especially if lots of players are cooperating, which would be ideal because the more players you have cooperating, the less time per person you need to spend on producing material requirements, meaning the less time it takes to complete the progression system. This should give rise to political systems to govern and coordinate this large-scale cooperation in production, which brings us back to why I named this video the political economy of Minecraft. With this simple change to how players interact with the world and how they interact with other players, we can have an economy and political system emerge out of the players' needs to stay alive and out of the players' desire to progress enough to complete their goals. That sounds like an interesting experiment to you? Join the Discord with the link in the description, and subscribe to my channel so that you don't miss out on any updates. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.